If it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook.
We have gotten some great horror films this decade. Yeah, there's always gonna be a lot of cheap, lazy ones, but when a rare gem of horror comes out, it's always very inspiring to me. Films like Under the Skin, A Quiet Place, and Get Out have proven that horror films can exist on a completely other level.
Where are those keys, Rose?
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
So when it comes down to the best horror film of the decade, two movies always jump out in my mind. Those being The Babadook and Hereditary.
It's okay, Charlie. We're almost to the hospital, okay?
I go to these films because of their emphasis on family, eerie atmosphere, beautiful cinematography, and fantastic direction. There's a lot that aspiring horror writers and filmmakers can learn from these films. Alright, without further ado, let's talk about why I think these are the two best horror films of the decade, and which one I think is better. Strong characters and family dynamic. As I've probably said in every video of mine by now, strong characters are crucial to any good story. Without good characters, the audience has nothing that they can latch onto, and they'll feel disconnected from the story. Luckily, these films have rock-solid characters that feel so real. Both films focus specifically on family dynamics, having a mother raise the family after horrific tragedy. The Babadook follows the story of Amelia Vanek, who is forced to raise her son Samuel after the tragic passing of her husband. He died in a car accident while driving Amelia to the hospital to deliver Samuel.
Leave it!
Then there is Hereditary. Hereditary follows the story of Annie Graham and her family, who is forced to deal with the aftermath of the death of her mother and then the death of her daughter. Both stories are at their dramatic best when they break the typical family dynamics. By breaking familial conventions, both films make us feel uncomfortable and on edge, which is exactly how you want to feel during a horror film. Amelia loves her son and wants to raise him right, but this behavior is testing her last nerve.
Yourself.
Your dad died so he didn't have to be with you. That's not true! And your mom doesn't want you. No one wants you.
Also, every time she looks at him, she's painfully reminded of her deceased husband. Amelia also sees the worst of herself in Samuel, as he takes up several of her own mannerisms. We can see the frustration in her eyes every time he hugs her. As he hugs tighter, she pulls away, signifying that she hates how constricting Samuel is to her life. She desperately wants to free herself of Samuel because she has very little control in their relationship. Hereditary breaks family conventions by showing the strain that death can have on a family, especially when the family members can't seem to find common ground. The children of the family, Charlie and Peter, went to a party where Charlie ate a piece of chocolate cake containing peanuts, which Charlie is allergic to. So Peter drives Charlie to the hospital. When she sticks her head out the window to breathe, Peter has to swerve to avoid a deer, which kills Charlie. This forces the family into a time period where everyone is very emotional. Annie is frustrated because she feels like Peter is somewhat responsible because he was driving. She also feels frustrated because he doesn't seem to acknowledge what he did.
Yeah, fine, release me. Just say it. Just fucking say it. Don't you swear at me, you little shit! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! Do you understand?
Peter feels like his mother is being unnecessarily cruel to him, and Steve is just trying to keep his family together.
She didn't want to go to the party. So why was she there?
All right, we're stopping this right now. Is that
The reason breaking family conventions works so well in both of these films is because it makes the audience uncomfortable. It forces us to compare the family portrayed in the film to our own family. The audience will wonder what kind of turmoil their own family would be in under similar circumstances. Making the audience on edge is exactly what you want to do when writing horror because it builds tension. The more you build tension, the better the payoff is going to be at the end of the film, whether it be for a happy ending or a tragic one. And speaking of tension, terrifying atmosphere. The atmosphere is where makers of horror films can have a lot of fun. Controlling what the audience is shown is absolutely crucial to setting up a terrifying atmosphere. The best horror films always hide things from the audience, leaving your brain to fill in the gaps. It's not what the audience sees that terrifies them, it's what they don't see. The setting has a lot to do with this. Each film has large wooden houses with lots of furniture and shadows for things to hide in. There is a lot going on in the background of each film. There are several points of the Babadook where you can see the silhouette of the Babadook in the background. This forces you to constantly check the background of every single shot in order to find if the Babadook is there or not. Hereditary takes this idea and cranks it up to 11. I'm gonna be honest, there's so much hidden in the background of this movie that I'm positive that I haven't found it all yet. Members of a cult hanging out in the background of establishing shots and key scenes, symbols appearing everywhere, mysterious people being in photographs, and holy hell, the list goes on. Every single time I watch this movie, I notice more in the background, which makes it endlessly rewatchable. There are little tiny sentences that at first you think are nothing, and then when you watch the movie again, you hear them and you realize, oh my god, this is insane.
My older brother had schizophrenia, and when he was 16, he hanged himself in my mother's bedroom, and of course his suicide note blamed her, accusing her of putting people inside him. So.
Ambiguity. Ambiguity is also a great tool you can implement into your own writing that will encourage a dialogue from audiences about your story. Both Hereditary and the Babadook use this to their advantage. Hereditary has tons of odd occurrences that don't really have a clear explanation that forces the audience to figure it out for themselves using the information that we have. What does the light mean? Why does Peter bang his head on the desk? Why is Annie floating? You can show Hereditary to 10 different people, ask them these questions, and potentially get 10 different answers from them. In my opinion, the Babadook surpasses Hereditary in this category. Firstly, the Babadook itself is subject of discussion among audiences. A major question left open to the audience is whether or not the Babadook exists at all. On one hand, there are people who believe the Babadook's a real demon that is tormenting this family and feeds off their misery. On the other hand, there's a group of people that believe that the Babadook isn't real, myself included. The idea here is that the Babadook is a symbol of the family's grief rather than a real, tangible creature.
I think it's gonna rain.
Stop!
And then there are the worms, which are obviously symbolic of, well, they're clearly a sacrifice of the, I'm gonna be honest, I have no fucking idea. Filmmaking. Of course, great filmmaking also helps these movies immensely. Firstly, the acting all around is phenomenal. The fact that Essie Davis and Toni Collette weren't nominated for Best Actress, hell, the fact that they didn't win Best Actress is an absolute tragedy. I love Toni Collette in The Sixth Sense, but she blows that performance out of the water with this role. She plays this broken mother who needs to constantly be on edge without ever going over the top. She needed to walk a very fine line as an actress, and she hit it out of the park. In fact, this was my favorite acting performance of 2018.
Oh, you are the love of my life. Oh,
Similarly, Essie Davis was perfection in The Babadook. She also needed to play a broken mother, and she pulled it off flawlessly.
if you You touch my son again, I'll fucking kill you!
I would call it my favorite performance of 2014, but nothing could really beat J.K. Simmons.
Then why the fuck didn't you say so?
Also, the child who plays Samuel gives one of the best child acting performances I have ever seen. I actually hated this child while watching this movie, and he did a great job. The set designs are creepy and uncomfortable. The music is chilling and makes us feel uneasy. The cinematography is breathtaking. There are really only a few shots of the Babadook that look fake. Ending. Although the films are very similar, the endings cannot be any more different. The ending of The Babadook has mother and son overcoming their grief, reconciling their differences, and forming a stronger bond because of it, thus defeating the Babadook. And then doing something with worms, I guess. Hereditary has a culmination of everything set up throughout the film coming to a head. All of the family drama is pushed to its breaking point, the cult swarms in, and it gets absolutely insane.
Meow?
Okay, so this is where I need to make a call on which film I think is better. This is tough because I love both movies. The Babadook has a stronger grasp on leaving aspects of the film open to interpretation. It also has a stronger child performance than Hereditary. Also, the ending of a mother and son putting past their grief to grow stronger together is a wonderful message to leave the audience with. Hereditary is a masterclass of horror. With so many small details hidden in the background, Hereditary still makes me want to revisit it no matter how many times I've already watched the movie. In the end, I believe that Hereditary is the better film. I genuinely believe Hereditary to be the greatest family-oriented horror film that I've ever seen, and if nothing tops it in the next 6 months, then I believe it to be the best horror film of the 2010s. Who knows though? Ari Aster's next film, Midsommar, is coming out soon, so I might have to eat my words in a few weeks. Hey guys, you can expect a review of Midsommar to be posted on this channel the week it's released because I'm really excited for it. Anyways, I post new videos on this channel just like this video every other Thursday, so you should totally subscribe if you like this video. Also, I published a book. Did you know I published a book? It's called Dogs Chasing Squirrels. The link to it is in the description below if you want to read the first chapter. The first chapter is completely for free on Amazon, so go check it out. It's a lot of fun. Also, you should follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook because my social media is very interesting and I post pictures of my friends' dogs. I'll be running out of things to say in about a second. Potatoes!